Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Maria Larionoff. I'm the Artistic Director of the String Orchestra of the Rockies here in Missoula, Montana. We have a very special event this evening. Our guest artist for the weekend, Amit Peled, the international cello superstar, is doing a special interview and performance for us this evening. He will be interviewed by Tom Cook, who is one of our String Orchestra of the Rockies board members, who also is a longtime resident of Missoula and the host of Morning Classics here at KUFM in Missoula. So I hope you enjoy this hour-long special event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all very much for being here. We know that you wanted to attend in the worst possible way. That's why we made sure there was a Grizzly football game going on at the same time, and making sure that the parking was a problem. So I know that you made a real effort to be here. Thank you very much. We're going to begin by having Amit play some for us, and we're going to ask him some questions. Near the end of the hour, we'll give you the opportunity, if you wish, to also ask some questions, so you can be thinking about that. But to begin with, music?
Yes, well, I'll just say a few words. I can also speak. Just to say thank you for having me here. It's wonderful to be back here in Missoula, in Montana, which is really my favorite state in the U.S. I've been here so many times and have so many friends. And it's wonderful to be back on this stage where we played so many pieces through the years and grew together as musicians and as humans. And I would like to start with a song, actually a song that takes me back to the first sounds I remember of music, which is my mother singing for us, for me and my sisters. And the song is called Eli Eli. It's an Israeli song. Oh God, is a song that probably I was 5 or something, but I think this song was one of the main reasons that I decided to become a musician. So here's Eli Eli. Thank you.
What a better, I can't think of a better way to begin this evening than by hearing you play. We're so grateful for your time and for your talents, and having a chance to get to know you before the performance, I think, is very meaningful to our audience. Would you tell us about your instrument, about what makes it so special to you? I know that it at one time belonged to Pablo Casals, or he played it at least. And it's an 18th century instrument, isn't that correct?
Yeah, well, this cello is very special, but it's not the Pablo Casals cello. But nevertheless, it's actually an older instrument. And yeah, I would love to talk. I was actually planning to introduce, I normally introduce myself, but then I introduce my voice, which is the cello. And yes, I did play on the Pablo Casals cello on the Grofriller for 6 years, from 2012 to 2018. And then I gave it back to his widow, who is still alive. The cello is now in Washington. And this cello, I call it the pandemic cello, because during the pandemic, I got a call from a dealer in Boston. As you know, we all hardly had any work, including dealers. Nobody bought instruments. So he basically called me knowing that I love instruments. And he said, you know, Amit, we don't have anybody in the shop now, and I have this beautiful Grancino cello. This is a Grancino from 1695, and it's just sitting here. Why don't you have it for a while and play on it? Of course, he knew that I would fall in love with it. That was clear. So I said, sure, Rob, you can just send it to me, you know, ship it. And he did. He sent somebody to New York because people in Boston couldn't get to Maryland. And somebody from New York brought the cello to Maryland. And I got it, and when I got the cello, I was in the middle of a Zoom lesson, which was commonly done in the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So I told the student on the screen just to wait a second. I played on it, few notes, and it was during nap time for my wife. And my wife is German, so Schlafstunde is holy. And I said, 1 second to my student, and I went upstairs and I woke her up. And I played the cello for her, and she wasn't upset. You know, she actually was. She said, "Wow, this is it." So I went down and I kept playing the lesson, and of course, I played on the cello, and I started thinking, you know, what the hell am I going to do? There's no way. Mm-hmm. And I wrote to few people, and actually thought, you know, maybe now for the first time, instead of getting a loan from somebody, a loaned instrument, which we always do, mm-hmm. maybe this time I can actually buy it. And even if I have to pay for the rest of my life, I'll just do it. And so I wrote to a few people and I said, you know, the bank will never give me a loan, but what if you give me a loan and it will be no interest? Only few people that can do that I know at least. And 2 of them said no, and that's okay. But the third one wrote back and he said, well, Barbara is his wife. He said, Barbara and I decided to just buy it for you. Why don't we give you a loan? We just buy it and you can play it. And he said, the only condition is whenever we want you to come to our house, they have a farm in Virginia with horses. In fact, one of their horses won a medal in the Olympics now. So they said, whenever we want you to come and play, you have to promise you will come and play. I said, sure. Because, you know, there's always a good dinner and wine with it, and no problem. That was the deal. I was completely shocked, and they bought this cello.
Wonderful.
So they have a foundation. Of course, they own it, but I get to play it. And that's my pandemic gift. Mm-hmm. And the cello was owned by a cellist from France before, who came to this country, Georges Michel. He came to this country in 1918. He bought it in 1913 in Paris. He played in the opera. And he came to Boston. He played in the Boston Symphony. And then moved to Detroit and was the principal of Detroit Symphony until 1955. And then moved to Eastman and taught there for many years. Mm-hmm. And in fact, his son, who is a psychiatrist, lives in Bozeman. Mm. So you see the connections? Mm-hmm. So we have to get in touch with him and tell him that his father's cello is now played in Missoula. So that's a cello, but I want to continue introducing the instrument by playing it. And as I said, this was made in 1695. And 25 years after that, in 1720 approximately, Bach wrote the suites for cello solo. So this cello was already a young cello, 25 years old. Who knows if Bach saw or heard this instrument? But I'll play for you 3 movements from the first suite for cello solo: the prelude, introduction, the saraband, which is a Spanish dance, and the jig, an English dance.
I have to say, it's so exciting to be able to sit this close to you and feel the energy from your music as you play. I'm wondering, at what point in your career did you get to the point where you really felt you could be one with the instrument, where you were really capable of making music from the heart as opposed to being concerned about the technique?
I haven't reached that yet. If you want my honest opinion, I'm struggling with it every day, and I know that the day I'll find it, I'll probably stop getting better. I remember my teacher, one of my teachers, Bernard Greenhouse, when I studied with him, he was 81, and he lived in Cape Cod. He was, by then, very famous. He retired from the Beaux-Arts trio. He had a lot of money, beautiful house on the ocean, everything perfect. But if he did not wake up at 5 a.m. and practice proper etudes, the day would not be good. And not only that he had to practice, he kept practicing. He would change the bridge and change the strings. And I would come to a lesson and say, Amit, come downstairs. I want to show you something. And he shaped the bridge a little different by 1 millimeter. And he said, do you hear a difference? Of course, I didn't hear, but yes, Mr. Greenhouse, yes. He said, oh my God. And then I would play, let's say, Dvořák Concerto, which he played and recorded and taught for 60 years. And I would play, and he, the next day, would say, Amit, I just thought of new fingering for this passage, so you must come over. I have to show you this fingering. And I was just, that was the best lesson, actually, to see him so excited. And when he was 95, I came to visit him. Just before he passed away, his wife was already gone, and he lied on his bed, and next to him is Stradivarius, and he just plucked it. That's all. You know, he could hardly speak anymore. That's all he wanted. So to your question, I guess I did feel from early on a connection to the cello, so it has been my voice since day one. And now being a parent, I can say that, you know, when I take my kids to swim lesson or to soccer or to all of the basketball, you always have that one kid that even the coach doesn't understand why they're so good and they're better and they're faster. And at one point, if they're good coaches, they come up to the parents and say, look, I don't know what to do with this kid. You must move them to the next level. So I guess with cello, maybe that was me. And now in soccer and basketball and all this stuff with my kids, that's not them. But yeah, if you're talented, you find the connection. But I haven't found the answers yet.
You mentioned a few minutes ago the pandemic, and it's obviously the elephant in the room for all of us. We're very concerned about the spread of the COVID. How has it changed not only your playing, but your approach to music? Has it had an impact upon how you are approaching what you're doing on a daily basis as well as in the concert hall?
Absolutely. I mean, in few levels. I mean, first of all, it made me realize by force that what I've been doing for so many years around the world, including here, I better start doing also in my community. And living in Baltimore and always using it as a great university, good school for my kids, and very easy airport. That's it. But Baltimore has schools and problems and many things, and being sort of stuck there, if you want, I realized that I can do much more, even to my neighborhood. I started playing concerts every weekend outside in our neighborhood, and people would come, distance and would bring a beer or something, and I would just play for them. And all of a sudden, my neighbors, they call me the Jewish Yo-Yo Mine in our neighborhood. but all of a sudden, the nickname got face, and instead of just walking with the dogs, we connected. And I started in my studio because I spent so many hours online on Zoom. I started approaching local artists in Baltimore, visual artists, and I asked them if they would like to put their art in my studio. So people around the world can see it and maybe buy it, and I can enjoy sculptures around me. And that's what we've been doing until now. Every few months we change the collection there, and it's all local artists, and they've been struggling maybe even more than musicians. So all these ways, and I've realized that I would like to do more of this when the pandemic is over, to do more in my community rather than to always do it outside of it, because it's part of being a traveling musician. So that's number one. And number two was the technology. The realization that with technology today, right now, probably my mother is watching us in Israel and telling me that my socks are not straight or something. I will get it. But technology really opened up the world for me as a cellist, as a musician. And I started doing online academies to cellists. And I didn't know if it will work or not. So we had two levels to it. One level of active players, which cost a little more. Nothing is expensive because you don't have to travel, so active and passive. So people who do not want to play in the academy can just sit and listen, and that's cheaper. So we got so many cellists applying because they were also stuck at home. And every Saturday morning, we do it a cycle of 7 Saturdays, 7 sessions. I would go through my entire technique book and with people from literally all over the world. And we had some people, for instance, from New Zealand and Australia, so Saturday morning at 10 a.m. for them, it's too early on Sunday. So everything was recorded, and about 2 hours after the session, all the members of the class get the video to practice during the week. So some of the people there who studied with me before told me that it was much more intense than one-on-one, because you have the session, and then there's always 10 minutes at the end for Q&A, and then you get the video and you practice it during the week, and so it's quite rigorous for them. And for me, it was great, not only financially, but also to be able to verbalize it in front of the computer, and to have so many people from all over the world, from all ages also. So it's been great, and I will now. I'm too busy, but in April I will do another one, another academy. So that has opened up opportunities that were never before. A lot of students would have to send a tape, apply, then get a visa, and get a travel, allowance to get to the States or to wherever I was teaching. Now you don't need it. So I was just telling today one of the students in my academy is a cellist from Saudi Arabia. And she's wonderful. And she's the only female cellist there, professional cellist. And she's been taking lessons with me through this academy online. And the only way she found me was through Instagram. So, and during the academy that we did, during that time exactly was the Abraham Peace Accord signed. So, I told her on the screen, we made peace before the politicians, because we were on, before.
So this is your first experience then in teaching online. You were forced into it by the pandemic.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself continuing to do this kind of teaching in addition to face-to-face teaching?
Yeah, well, I do it now, yes, absolutely.
In the future?
Before, I didn't agree to do it because, of course, it's not the same quality and you don't have the human contact. It's not the same, but it is better than nothing. So I will continue doing it, not in that capacity. but I will definitely do it. And also in our school, that was one of my proud suggestions, was to suggest a degree that costs third of the tuition for people to do a Peabody degree, not in cello yet, but we have it in guitar, in computer music, and in musicology. Already this fall, we have a degree that you can live in China and be a Peabody student and pay much less and do all the classes and all you need to do online. And I think it will open up, the whole world to what we can offer.
We all know that you're a man of many talents. We just have to look at your website to find that out and to learn about you and your background. I know that you've ventured into the area of teaching, not only teaching, but creating books for children. And I even watched the video of you reading the children's book that you wrote. Can you tell us about that? And why did you do that? What was the inspiration to go into that area?
Well, it was during the time I had the Pablo Casals cello. So this book, it's called A Cello Named Pablo, and it's actually a story for kids, and it's the cello telling the story about its existence, and I'm just part of it. And what I felt when I got that cello, Mrs. Casals told me, go out to the world and do two things: share his legacy, the maestro's legacy, and find your own voice. And of course, in the beginning, I thought my own voice would be, what can I do on the cello? But I realized soon that my own voice would be, she meant find your call. What can you do with this cello? Because Pablo Casals was not just a cellist. He was a humanitarian, and he really made a change in the world. And I started to think, well, if she said so, and if she gave me this cello, what is my call? How can I do something? So when I started to come to places like Missoula and other places, I always, sorry to say it, but I always see people with gray hair and white hair in the audience. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, guys, but I don't see young kids. Now, I do have young kids. I have 3 kids myself, and I love kids, and I love communicating with them, but they never come to concerts. Sometimes they send us to a school and we play for 20 minutes or so, but I thought that the cello and the history of this cello could be really cool for these kids to explore. So that was the idea, and another way to make kids excited about classical music and not just older people. So the book, I usually play the cello and I read the book, and then they ask questions, and of course they ask, is Pablo, that's the name of the cello, is Pablo alive? And I ask them, why don't you ask the cello? And they do. They really see the connection and the life behind the cello. So yeah, that's why I did it, to find ways to communicate with kids and not just with adults through classical music.
I know that you're very concerned about trying to keep some sort of balance between your performing and your teaching and your family. In fact, you've called it yourself your triangle of life. And how are you able to do that when you're traveling to Missoula? You're going next week, you'll be home. I know that you'll be performing in Baltimore, and then you're off to New Jersey a few days after that. And I saw a whole list of performances that are coming up in the future. How does that work out for you as a musician, as a traveler, and as a family person?
Well, you said the right word. It's balance. And luckily these days, as we all know, I mean, we just talked about technology, but FaceTime is a great invention. I mean, I talk to each one of my kids maybe 5 times a day, and then to my wife on FaceTime. I mean, I have to explain to them, for instance, that Montana is 2 hours earlier. So when my son wakes up to school at 7, it's actually 5 here. But I usually explain it to him after he wakes me up. But FaceTime really helps, and just connecting to them, to your family. I know in my age, mid-40s, I have friends from my kids' school, and I see people that are literally every day at home, besides 1 week or 2 weeks a year where they go to Florida or something. They hardly see their kids. They go at 6 a.m., they come back at 9, and then they go to play sport with their friends, and then on the weekend they watch football with their friends. They never see their kids. So it really depends on how you do it. It's not the hours, it's what you do when you have the time with them. What I try to do is to set time for teaching. So I teach only 2 days a week. Even now I have 16 students, which is a little too much for me, but I call it 2 days of hell. And I never do more than 2 days because I know that A, I would not be able to be a cellist and practice, but B, I would not have time at home. So when I go home, there are always day, 2, even 3 days where I'm just home, nothing. I practice, of course, but I'm there. So if I count the daddy hours, I don't think it's less than somebody who is there every day but doesn't appreciate those hours.
I think it's time for some more music, don't you? I think it would be wonderful to hear you play some more, if you would.
Yes,
for us, what would you like to
absolutely.
play?
So I thought, anyway, to play something that is very close to me. You asked me about connection to the voice. And I think the piece that made me realize it first was the Kol Nidre, because the moment in the kibbutz, I grew up in a kibbutz, social community, about 500 people, but the moment I realized that I play cello, of course, every Yom Kippur I had to play Kol Nidre. And I realized the power of music through playing this piece for so many years. So I wanted to play it, but then I thought today, instead of do it and talk about Yom Kippur and the fact that we have to ask for forgiveness, which is next week, I thought because it's September 11, it would be a great day to just play this piece and just, like Maria said today, I really liked it. She said in the rehearsal, we should feel blessed and thankful that, that we are here now and we can make music and we're alive and this country is going on. So I would like to play the Kol Nidre for that cause today.
It is such a pleasure and an honor for us to have you here in Missoula again. I know that you've played with the Missoula Symphony as well as the String Orchestra of the Rockies. Over the years, you've done recital work, chamber music, played with all types and sizes of ensembles. Can you talk about what adjustments you have to make as a performer between playing with a full symphony orchestra as opposed to the String Orchestra of the Rockies, for example?
I think the main adjustment, the only adjustment actually, is sound production. Playing with a massive orchestra, one has to just produce more sound. It's like being on stage with 80 people, and while they're talking, you have to be heard clearly. That's it. But the music part, there's absolutely no difference. I don't like, actually, when people categorize musicians. They say, you're a chamber musician, you're a soloist, you're a teacher, you're this, you're the... I mean, music is music. Music is a language. Either you know how to listen or you don't. That's another thing that I always try to emphasize when I work with kids, that I really think that music is the best tool to teach kids about democracy. Honestly, because music forces us musicians from age 5, when we start, it forces us to listen. If you don't listen, it falls apart. You don't have to agree, but you have to listen. And if you start doing it in early age, you start making kids listen to each other, they might have a chance in this world as citizens, because nobody expects us to agree, but we do need to listen. I mean, many people just say what they think, they never listen to the other opinion. So music, I think, is the only language that simply forces you to listen. And I don't see a difference between playing with 10 people, 2 people, alone on stage, it's also a dialogue, or with 80 people. It's exactly, for me, it's exactly the same.
Good. Is there anything else you'd like to play this evening that you had in mind, or not?
I can keep playing, but I don't know how much time we have.
Okay, well, we maybe have a total of 15 minutes, but I want to give the audience a chance to ask some questions as well.
Absolutely.
In about 5 minutes, but I can't help but wonder if you could share with us some little nugget that we can take into tomorrow evening's concert. Some sort of behind-the-scenes moment that you worry about, that you're always on your toes at a certain point in the music. Is there something that you can just give us an inside, a little inside?
Well, I'm always
bit
worried.
here?
So I'm always worried. But actually, with the Schumann, the concerto I'm playing tomorrow, it's such a monumental piece of music. And of course, I think at this point, when you become sort of quote-unquote professional, everything is difficult to really convey a message. But Schumann is really hard. And in fact, I can share with you a story that will summarize how hard it is. Mrs. Casals told me a story of Gregor Piatigorsky, the great Russian cellist, once playing the Schumann concerto with Pablo Casals conducting. And this was in Prague, in the festival. And of course, by that time, this was in the 50s of last century, Piatigorsky recorded it a few times, played it hundreds of times, this piece. And she was very young. She entered the room, his dressing room, and he was smoking and full of sweat, completely nervous. And she asked him, Mr. Piatigorsky, why are you so nervous? I mean, you played this piece millions of times. Why are you worried? And he said, it's not because of the audience. It's because I'm about to approach Schumann. Schumann is like Everest, this piece. So I'm about to climb this Everest. And that's nerve-wracking, regardless of the audience. And that's how I feel with this piece. It's not anything between me and the audience, or to miss note here or there. We all do. That's not the problem. The problem is this message. I mean, this piece is such a monumental piece, and you have to carry it through to the audience. That's not easy.
Now, playing without a conductor provides you with some additional freedom as a musician, does it not?
Not really, and not with this orchestra. They don't let me. It's very strong, opinionated orchestra. So no, but that's good. No, I think in a concerto, because it's because of the importance of the line that the soloist is playing. Naturally, people have to listen more to what the soloist is saying. And without a conductor, I think what naturally happens to an orchestra, they start looking and listening more, rather than counting on somebody to tell them. So
this from the lips of a conductor, right?
Yeah.
You're a conductor as well.
Yes. Yes, I admit it. I mean, I'm not saying that conductor is not needed. Sometimes it's okay to have an opinion that will carry through. Also conducting, that's another conversation. I don't see a conductor. I see a conductor as a good basketball coach. I mean, if you have 5 people like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, all those great people, if you're a great coach, you make them rise to the occasion. And I think that's what a good conductor is. It's not that you are making it. You're making them playing better. So it's a lot of psychology rather than this is what I want to do. You have to do it. So that's my opinion of a conductor.
At this point in the evening, why don't we give you the opportunity, if you wish, to ask a question or two. We won't make it a long session, but if anybody would like to ask a question, please raise a hand. Yes, ma'am.
My question is, what is your name for your cello? And maybe both. Do you have a personal name for your cello?
Yeah. Do I have a personal name for this cello? Absolutely. So, of course, yes. Of course, the previous cello was Pablo, naturally. And this cello, I call it Shoko. And I'll tell you why. Shoko in Hebrew is hot chocolate. And when I got this cello, I felt, when I played it, I felt that I'm bathing in, not that I've done it, in hot chocolate. That was a feeling. So I decided to call this cello Shoko. Shoko. And if you ask for Shoko in Israel in a restaurant, you get hot chocolate. And that's what it is for me.
Another question. Yes.
Could you talk a little bit more about a typical cello day for you? I'm sure you spend certain hours playing, but you must also spend much of your time listening and maybe even writing, composing. What's a typical cello day when you're not performing?
A typical cello day. Well, I don't compose. I don't write music. I do write exercises. I mean, I treat myself and try to convey to my students that we are musical athletes. So I really feel that I'm an athlete, and I need to sustain a certain level of athleticism in my body. And in order to do that, I need to do certain things every day. Certain exercises, scales, patterns, routines, body exercises also. So I start the day with some exercises for my back, stretches, but then the most important hour of my day is the first hour, and that's also the name of my book, The First Hour. And it's how do I maintain this level so I can speak and I can convey the text to the audience. So that takes a lot of time, and that's the most important thing. And this is, by the way, what I did just before coming here in between the rehearsal and tonight, is to, let's say, after we had a very long rehearsal today, 2.5 hours of, basically, it's like if you play football, you look very dirty after and sweaty, and you need to clean yourself up. And that's how I felt after the rehearsal. So after that, I took a nap, and then I really practiced so slow just to clean myself up. Just to remind my fingers, my muscles, how things should work. And I do that a lot, and I'm a big believer in it, and I have a whole system of doing it. So I usually practice 3 hours a day, 4 hours maybe, but depending on time. I don't have so much time now. But with the lessons, I force my students to do that. So the first 15, 20 minutes of a lesson is to show your maintenance. It's not at all about music. It's about being able to be an athlete. And I like to talk to sport people about it and to have them talk to my students so they understand what those people are going through in order to play a game of 48 minutes and how many hours. So there's a lot of that. Now, about the music, I try not to listen too much to other cellists. I did that for many years, and for hours and hours. Now I try to listen to other music, and the only time I have is on airplanes. I found out that I have many, many hours of nothingness on airplanes. So I started to download operas and symphonies and all those things that I didn't have time to listen to, and that's what I do, or to read. So I try to use that time, this fourth time that I cannot do other things on the airplane. And I sometimes also do what I call mental practice. So I would, even once I had to learn a piece on a flight from Europe back to the US, and it's possible. It doesn't look good because people think you're crazy, because you conduct it and I play on my hands and all of that, and they don't like that. But it's amazing if you are a good athlete how much you can do without the cello. Yeah.
Good. Another question from anyone? Yes.
Amit, I know as a musician you wear so many different hats. Any one of the pursuits that you have could be a full-time job, teacher, performer, certainly, and now conductor. Come to conducting a little bit later in your career. And I just kind of wondered if you have a hierarchy of those elements
No, they don't compete, definitely not. I really love doing all of it, and I figured out that instead of fighting my wish, I always want to do something new, I embrace it. And even my wife realized it. Instead of fighting it, just let him do his thing. They help each other. Conducting has made me learn so much about cello. Singing. My orchestra, we always sing Bach chorales before every piece we perform. And singing to the audience has made me play the cello, I think, better. Teaching, of course, I will never give up teaching, although I would like to teach a little less, but teaching is the best lesson that one can have, and also the impact that you can have as a teacher is much more than making a nice phrase. You actually change people's life. So teaching, playing, conducting, anything that involves music or playing for kids or establishing this orchestra that I have now that does more than just play orchestral music means the same to me. I do have to say that I miss each aspect if I don't do enough of it. So if I perform too much, I miss my students. And if I teach too much, I miss the stage. And and conducting is not there yet because I don't think I am a conductor yet, but I'm learning. And I'm scared because the power of a conductor is not the power of you decide what to do, but the power of the music that you can make as a conductor, the power that you can involve so many people with you. That's scary because if I will succeed in it, it will be very hard to keep the others. So it's okay to have it on a low fire.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We're coming to the end of our hour, so perhaps, Maria, you would like to come up and approach the stage so that you can round things up as our artistic director. I would like to take a moment and just say thank you to a few people who have worked to make this happen. Derry Quirk, our SOR coordinator. Dr. Royce Engstrom is our SOR board president. Maria, of course, is our artistic director. Dr. James Randall is the director of the School of Music here at the University of Montana. Dr. Adam Collins is the professor of cello. And a special thanks to our musicians, members of the String Orchestra of the Rockies. So with those people thanked, Maria, will you finish things off for us tonight?
And thank you to both of you, Amit, for sharing your extraordinary talent and your wonderful stories. It's been so inspiring. I've had the joy of listening to Amit for the last 2 days in our rehearsals, but this has been truly just extraordinarily special. And thank you, Tom, for leading such a wonderful and informative discussion. So many thanks.
Thank you very much.
I hope we see all of you at the concert tomorrow evening at 7:30. Thank you.
You can say something. Thank you very much. Thank you.